Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are two of the biggest names in America right now, and their college careers have done wonders for women's sports, drawing millions more March Madness viewers than the men's tournament for the first time in NCAA history. But the fame hasn't translated to fortune, at least in the WNBA. Clark and Reese will make around $76,000 and $73,000 a year, respectively, compared to San Antoni Spurs rookie Victor Wembanyama, who made over $12 million this year. NBC Sports Boston anchor and reporter Trenni Casey joins me now to discuss all of this. Certainly, those numbers don't seem equitable, but as my husband and all of his friends and the folks tuned in say, they just have this argument that women don't draw as much as the men.
Well, I don't agree with that argument as much anymore, Crystal. I think that was the issue in the past, which is why we are still sitting in a time where you see such massive disparity in the numbers, right? But we have seen big gains in women's sports in terms of viewership numbers. You talked about in your lead in there about the college basketball, how they outrated the men's final this year in terms of television ratings. WNBA saw an increase in ratings last year. The problem is that increase has just more recently come, right? So now I think the thing we need to talk about is how does the WNBA, how does women's college basketball, how do they capitalize and keep this momentum going? Because that is going to turn into the fortune that you're talking about that they don't have right now.
Yeah, I'm always saying that in these arguments that they're just one, hotshot marketing professional away from creating these stories which will fill the seats of these arenas for women's basketball games.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, just look at Caitlin Clark. It's why there's so much of an emphasis, I think, on her in particular, because there are other stars in women's college basketball. She didn't carry the season herself, but she is ubiquitous this year. You see her in State Farm commercials, Nike commercials, Gatorade. She just signed a deal with Nike for $28 million over the next 10 years, plus a signature shoe deal. She is a storyline that people have followed. And it started last year in the finals when Iowa played LSU. Angel Reese and her kind of had the back and forth. Did they act like ladies enough? Did they handle themselves the right way on the court? All of those drove up viewership this year. That's what's important. People always identify, listen, if you like sports, you like sports. But what people really identify with is a hero, a villain, a storyline, and getting to know the people who are on the court. The NBA, starting really in the Magic Bird and then definitely in the Michael Jordan area, that's where they saw a huge increase in television revenue and just revenue overall. And then in turn, salaries, because that's, people got obsessed with, I want to be like Mike. Can Caitlin Clark be the Michael Jordan of the WNBA? Maybe not to that extent, but I think that's what the WNBA and women professional athletes in all sports are hoping for.
I know that this is a conversation that has been happening since, the Women's World Cup and all of the viewers and then the pay equity in soccer there, the conversation. Do we see in the near future, do you think that there'll be another serious conversation about raising the salaries in the WNBA?
Absolutely, because everything is cyclical, right? There are television deals that are signed and collective bargaining agreements that are signed and agreed upon in professional sports. Women, that's where there is equality in both women's and men's. The women's collective bargaining agreement can be renegotiated after this season. So you can expect, I would imagine, the players' union and the WNBA to have a tougher conversation this time around. And the WNBA is also going to have a chance to renegotiate their television rights. They're going to be able to go to networks like NBC or ESPN, TNT, the networks that now have their games, Amazon, and say, hey, look at these numbers. Look at the product that we're putting out there. People are paying attention. They're buying merchandise. Advertisers, sponsors are going to be more inclined to invest money, I think, in the future. That, in turn, is going to mean more money for these female athletes, because that's really the crux of it, right? It's not that if the WNBA had, the coffers that the NBA has or the NFL, they would love to pay their stars what an NBA star makes. They just don't have the revenue. Right now, the WNBA last year pulled in about $160 $180 to $200 million in total revenue. And their sponsorships are folded into that. You look at it, they had about 75 million in sponsorships. You even look at MLS, Major League Soccer. They had over $600 million last year in sponsorships alone. So it's those other dollars coming into sports, people investing in the sports and the athletes. And then you see the change happening with the salaries.
Trenni, I'm going to take advantage of you while we have you. NFL draft, it's do or die for the Pats.
Number 3 pick, biggest draft since Drew Bledsoe went number 1 overall back in 1993. This is huge. Everybody expects them to take a quarterback at number 3 to stay right there. The consensus is they think they'll take North Carolina quarterback Drake May, but keep an eye on what Washington does. The Washington Commanders have the number 2 pick overall. Everyone has sort of assumed they'll take LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels, but if for some reason there were some conversations the last week or so that maybe Jaden Daniels himself and his camp, his agents, his parents, the whole thing that he has around him, maybe rub some people in Washington the wrong way. If for some reason they would go with Drake May, then maybe you could see Jaden Daniels, who many people believe is more NFL ready, come to the Patriots instead. But either way, they are looking for a franchise quarterback. They didn't get it with Mac Jones. They need to get it here. Listen, I don't watch a ton of college football. I'm going to be totally honest, but all the very smart football guys I'm around every day tell me Drake May is the way to go. Lower floor, but a much higher ceiling than Jaden Daniels. He could be a real star in the NFL.
We certainly need a better season, that's for sure.
Yes, please.
All right, Trenni Casey, thank you so much.
You got it.